For 47 minutes, they were completely alone. No contact with Earth, no radio, no rescue. No one could hear them. On Christmas Eve, 1968, 3 astronauts passed behind the moon, and they became the most isolated humans in history. August 1968. The lunar module was nowhere near ready. Schedules slipped, deadlines loomed, and the promise of a moon landing in 1969 hung by a thread. George Low saw the risk and the opportunity. He proposed something no one expected: skip the lunar module and send Apollo 8 around the moon. Not in years, in months. Robert Gilruth listened, weighed the danger, and agreed. Deke Slayton joined them. The plan stayed secret. They flew to Huntsville, sat with Werner von Braun, Kurt Davis, and Samuel Phillips. Each man understood the stakes. Each one said yes. But the final word belonged to James Webb, NASA's administrator. He hesitated. Lives were at risk. The world was watching. Soviet launches pressed closer. In late August, Webb gathered his senior team. The debate was sharp: safety against speed, caution against history. By November, the decision was made. The switch was official. Apollo 8 would go to the moon. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders would fly. The most audacious mission yet was set. There was no turning back. December 21st, 1968. The countdown reached 0. Saturn V thundered to life, shaking the Florida coast and rattling bones for miles. 3 men strapped atop the most powerful rocket ever built, rising on a column of fire. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders, calm voices, hands steady on checklists. Inside the cockpit, the world shrank to switches, dials, and the relentless thrum of engines. 12 minutes after liftoff, Apollo 8 slipped into orbit. The crew ran their systems checks, every step practiced, every word measured. Then came the call for translunar injection. No simulation could mimic this. The S-4B stage ignited for nearly 6 minutes, pushing the spacecraft beyond the grip of Earth. There was no turning back. At 2:44 a.m. Houston time, Apollo 8 left home behind. The blue planet faded, replaced by darkness and the unknown. From this moment, rescue was impossible. The commitment was final. 3 men, alone, on a path no human had ever traveled. Distance is measured differently out here. In low Earth orbit, astronauts circled just a few hundred miles above the surface. Apollo 8 kept going, and the numbers grew almost meaningless. 240,000 miles from home, the farthest any human had ever traveled. Earth shrank behind them, a pale blue marble suspended in endless black. The radio voices of Houston faded to a whisper, then to nothing at all. Through the tiny windows, the world was no longer a place, but an idea, fragile, impossibly small, and very far away. Jim Lovell looked out and tried to put it into words. He said, "The vast loneliness is awe-inspiring, and it makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth. Nothing but darkness and silence all around." The spacecraft, barely larger than a family car, carried 3 men farther from their planet than anyone before. Every mile multiplied the sense of separation. Every second, the risk grew sharper. Out here, there was no rescue, no turning back, only the thin shell of the command module and the hope that everything would hold. The numbers on the dials kept ticking upward, but the distance was more than physical. It was the measure of how alone a human being could be. 69 hours into the mission, Apollo 8 slipped behind the moon. No signal, no help. The crew prepared for the most dangerous maneuver yet. The service propulsion system burned. The guidance computer, running Program 30, armed the engine for a 4-minute firing that had to be perfect. There was no way for Houston to monitor the burn. No telemetry, no voice. The spacecraft was on its own. If the engine fired too long, Apollo 8 could crash into the moon. Too short, and the crew would be flung into deep space, lost forever. Every calculation, every line of code, every checklist had to work. The astronauts read out the numbers, confirmed attitude, and trusted the machine beneath them. There was no backup, no rescue. Mission Control watched blank screens, powerless. The only thing left was to wait. On the far side of the moon, 3 men risked everything following instructions written months before, trusting that when they emerged, the world would still be listening. The clock in Mission Control started its slow march, 47 minutes. No signal, no data, no voice. Controllers stared at blank screens, hands tight on consoles, eyes flicking to the countdown. Every second stretched. The only sound was the hum of air conditioning and the soft click of pens. Flight director's headset stayed silent. No one dared to break the hush. Engineers leaned in, waiting for a flicker of telemetry, a blip of static, anything. But the numbers stayed frozen. Some watched the wall clock tick down, minute by minute. Others tapped their notes, reviewing every line of procedure, every possible outcome. No one moved. No one left their post. The world outside faded away. Only the passing seconds mattered. At 40 minutes, a Capcom voice whispered, "Stand by for AOS." Still nothing. The silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. For 47 minutes, 3 men were gone from the Earth. The wait became a vigil. All anyone could do was hope the signal would return. 10 times Apollo 8 circled the moon, each orbit the same ritual. The spacecraft slipped behind the far side, and the signal vanished. 47 minutes of silence. No voices from Houston, no way home. Just the endless gray of the lunar surface, and the low hum of machinery. The world outside was gone. Frank Borman stared out at the landscape. He called it a vast, lonely, forbidding place, an environment of nothing. Craters stretched out in every direction, untouched for billions of years. No color, no air, no sign of life. Only the deep black above and the pale dust below. Inside the capsule, the hours stretched. The men spoke in clipped phrases, checked instruments, and waited for the world to return. Each blackout was a reminder. They were farther from Earth than any human had ever been. 10 times they disappeared. 10 times they re-emerged, alone and unbroken. The moon offered no comfort, only the cold truth of isolation, repeated with every orbit. A flash of blue and white broke the gray silence. Bill Anders pressed his face to the window. Earth, rising above the lunar horizon, bright and impossibly small. "Oh my God! Look at that picture over there. There's the Earth coming up. Wow, is that pretty?" Anders scrambled for the camera, his voice urgent. "Hand me that roll of color quick, would you?" The capsule, just moments before a world of shadows and dust, now filled with color and wonder. The shutter clicked. Anders captured the first Earthrise. One fragile world, floating in blackness. In that instant, isolation gave way to awe. 3 men, alone, but seeing home as no one ever had before. On December 24th, the capsule became a beacon in the dark. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders spoke not just for themselves, but for everyone back home. Their voices traveled across 240,000 miles, carried by radio waves to televisions and radios in every corner of the world. Nearly 1 billion people listened as Anders began. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The crew took turns reading from Genesis, their words drifting over images of the moon and the distant blue earth. For a moment, the boundaries faded. One small spacecraft, one fragile planet, one shared story. On that night, isolation gave way to unity. The final engine burn came in darkness, hidden once more behind the moon. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders prepared for the trans-Earth injection. One last ignition of the service propulsion system. The computer counted down. The engine fired. No one on Earth could see or hear them. For minutes, the crew rode a controlled explosion, trusting numbers, trusting the machine, trusting each other. Then silence. Another blackout. Mission Control waited, eyes on the clock, waiting for the capsule to reappear. When contact returned, Lovell's voice broke through. "Please be informed, there is a Santa Claus." The burn had worked. Apollo 8 was coming home. 2 days later, the capsule slammed into Earth's atmosphere at nearly 25,000 miles per hour. The heat shield glowed white hot, plasma wrapped the spacecraft, and radio contact vanished again. 3 minutes of total silence. Then, a crackle, a voice, parachutes blooming over the Pacific. December 27, 1968, recovery teams found the crew bobbing in the waves, alive. The journey was complete. Against every risk, 3 men had left Earth, circled another world, and returned. Now, a half-century later, the moon remains silent. Still no rescue. Still no borders on that distant blue marble. As we map new frontiers, one fact endures. Our greatest discoveries about risk, wonder, and ourselves begin at the edge of isolation. The lesson echoes back. We are never truly alone.